Hi everybody. Today we're going to talk about marketing communications. The best place to start learning about marketing communications is with the model of communication. Communication is a two-way process. Two or more parties are involved in the transmission of information. The model starts with the sender. The sender is the party that wants to initiate communication. There are three things a sender must know before they can design effective communication. One, they must have a goal or a response they're looking for. Two, they need to know who they're trying to communicate with. Who's the target market or audience? Three, they have to know what they want to communicate. That starts off in the sender's head. It might be a feeling they want to communicate, or a thought, or a belief. It starts with the meaning that is in the sender's head. The next step in the process is encoding. That means we have to take the meaning in our thoughts, whether it's feelings, beliefs, whatever it is we're trying to communicate, and put it into some form that we can then transmit or send to the receiver. It's often a very difficult task because there are many ideas or concepts that we understand in our head but have a difficult time expressing. Encoding is aided when we share a lot of the same experiences and cultural values with the target. When we are from a different culture or often have different beliefs and values and experiences, it makes sense to find help in encoding in the proper way so that our receiver can decode the message and get the meaning that we're trying to impart. So, in encoding, we've turned a meaning into a message. The next step is we put it in a channel, or we broadcast it, or we transmit it. And the main thing is we have to deliver the message to the target audience. What's the key factor? Hitting the target. In marketing, this means, picking the right television show, the right radio station, placing our ads on the proper websites, using the most favored social media platforms that our target audience uses. If you don't hit the target, it doesn't really matter how great your message is. Now, after the message has been sent to the receiver, they decode it. So it's the opposite process to encoding. We take a message and we turn it into a meaning. That's what they mean. What is most persuasive about a message isn't really the message. It's the meaning we attach to it in our head and how we feel about it. Do we agree? Do we disagree? And to what strength do we disagree or agree with it? Now, an important concept in terms of understanding and decoding is the idea of context. Context is the situation, or almost think of the environment in which the receiver gets the message and then decodes it. In our culture, North American culture, context is not that important. We put more emphasis on the message. Think about a Christmas gift. In our culture, most people judge the value of a friend by how much money they spend on the gift. Other cultures, especially Asian cultures, place a lot of importance on context. It's not the message so much. It's how it's said. It's how it's delivered. The respect, the deference, the body language are all much more important. Again, as you communicate across cultures, whether it's across the ocean or within, our country, context can really vary. Once the receiver decodes the message, turns it into a meaning, then because it's a two-way process, we're looking for feedback. The most important thing to remember in feedback is, especially in marketing, it doesn't have to be immediate. It doesn't have to be in the same form. Companies create commercials for television. People watch them. That feedback may not be collected. They may not act on those commercials until much later when it comes time to buy a new car or buy some clothes or go out and buy a gift for somebody. So feedback, it can often be delayed. And for some forms of marketing communications, that makes it troublesome to try to measure how effective they are. The last part of the model is noise. Noise is anything that can disrupt or distort communication. It's possible for it to occur at any point in the communication process. Hey, if you're the sender and you're trying to compose a communication and you're distracted or really tired, you may not be able to do a good job understanding what you want to send or encoding it because you're tired and you're not, doing the best you can. Anytime that, channels, the internet's down, if you were expecting to send out, For instance, we may be tired or distracted and not really understand who our target is or exactly what we want to communicate, what the meaning is. Oftentimes we have issues in encoding. We use the wrong symbols for that cultural group. Noise is common in the channels. Newspaper ink can be blurry. Radio advertisements are blocked when people drive through tunnels or under bridges. The internet goes down, and the ads that are going to be served up while people surf, they never see them. Noise affects decoding. The person you're talking to, if you're in sales, is distracted. They have too many things going on. The phone rings. They're not really listening to the message or they misinterpret it. There's noise even in feedback. Our sales might go up right at the same time we launch a new advertising campaign. We may think that the sales are going up because the advertising is working well. There are other things that could explain why sales are up. Perhaps a competitor went out of business. The economy is strong, but we might interpret it as our advertising. That's noise. So noise is often a big problem in communications. It leads to miscommunication. So one of our most important goals in communication is to limit noise, to try to reduce as much noise in communication so the sender can communicate clearly with the receiver. Therefore, marketing communications is developing a set of shared meanings with your target market. It's coming to a mutual understanding. Nowadays, marketing communications is often called integrated marketing communications. The idea is that marketing communications should be consistent in its message. That they want to avoid mixed messages. Because mixed messages from any source is confusing. In marketing, it confuses customers or potential customers and discourages them from buying. This has become a pretty big issue in marketing over the past 10 years for a couple of reasons. First, there are competing marketing communications goals that occur. For example, car companies want to build the brand equity of their brand. They do this mainly through advertising that talks about the quality and performance of their brand versus their competition. On the other hand, at certain times during the year, they need to sell product. At the end of the model year, they need to help the dealerships sell the older vehicles so they have the space and money to buy the new ones. One of the most popular ways for car manufacturers to move their older cars is to cut the price, offer a rebate, use other forms of sales promotion. Now, when you think about it, there's a possibility for a mixed message. Advertising says, hey, our brand is great. A $2,500 rebate or a $5,000 rebate says, well, we can't get anybody to buy it at the regular price, so we're going to take a bunch of money off. That might signal to the consumer or the potential customer that perhaps the product isn't really as good as the company says it is. That's a simple example of a mixed message. The other two issues go hand in hand. There's been tremendous growth in alternative media and different types of channels, especially social media. And because of this, brand managers often don't have much control over the general or total marketing communications that go on. Many times problems occur because employees say something offensive in some way or contradictory on social media. And then companies have to deal with events and social media, potential customers, critics who are out there on social media interacting with the company. So it's much more complicated nowadays. As a result, it's much tougher nowadays to maintain that consistency. And avoiding mixed messages is that much more difficult. The rise of social media has led to the notion of customer engagement. It's actually made it more possible. It's the idea that for companies, it makes a lot of sense for them to have an ongoing dialogue, have a conversation with their customers. Social media enables companies and customers to interact almost on a one-on-one basis. The goal for most companies is to build a stronger relationship with their target market, with their customers. That relationship is based upon sharing experiences among the customers and the company. It works because, one, the more familiar we are with something, the more we tend to prefer it to things we're less familiar with. So the more we know another company, the more we are active with another company, the more we're going to prefer it. Also, the more we are engaged, we think about a company, we talk about it with other people, it tends to strengthen whatever our existing attitude is. So if we have a positive attitude, and we talk about the brand, or we mention it, or we read about it, or it's in our thoughts, whether it's an email, a tweet, Facebook, we're more likely to feel more positive toward the brand. If it's a negative attitude, we don't like the brand very much, we have a lot of conversation with it, it may strengthen our conviction about the brand of not being that good. It can work both ways. Content marketing is a new idea that's been brought about by the growth in social media. Traditional marketing and marketing communications is disruptive. We would sit down to watch a free television show. Every 6, 7, 8 to 10 minutes, we get interrupted with commercials. We're supposed to watch the commercials because we get free TV. That's kind of how it works. Now, over the years, improvements in technology enable consumers to avoid commercials. We exercise selective exposure. So when we know commercials are on, or about to come on, we change the channel. We have DVRs and we had VCRs that could zap the commercials so you wouldn't have to watch them if we recorded the show. It's not a great way to go about getting people excited about your brand. interrupting something that they want to watch to show them something that they probably do not want to watch. Content marketing, on the other hand, is a way to try to foster non-disruptive customer engagement. The idea is that put your brand in the content, the TV show, the sporting event. Put your brand in the show. Put it in the content that your audience wants to see. So, yes, you may not be able to get a full message for 30 seconds or a minute, however what you're going to try in traditional marketing, but people see your brand. They get exposed to your brand, and they're in a positive frame of mind. And remember, with the advent of social media, websites, all the information available to consumers, many consumers don't need to go to the marketer. Many businesses don't need to go to the marketer to find out information about the brand. So they're already doing their research by talking to existing customers, other buyers who have experiences. So passing along that information isn't quite as important. Developing a positive relationship is more important. As you might suspect, content is the most important thing in content marketing. You need to put material that your customers or potential customers want to see, want to interact with, want to be engaged with. There are many different ways to do content marketing. Probably the first one was really product placement. Put your product in TV shows. Put it in movies. Put it in video games. Put it in songs. Companies spend a large amount of money getting different producers to put their products in the show. Use social media to link up customers, to have them share their experiences. Show people how to use your product. Get them to post their videos on your website. Create some information, some experiences for people, not so much about your brand, but about what they want to do with your brand. Be a sponsor, the Olympics, the Oscars. Get your name posted every time in a football game. Get your name shown every time they shoot a shot at the scoreboard. That's priceless. Adopt a cause that's important to your target market. Make a contribution. Build that affinity, that relationship with your target market. Social media, content marketing ideas have led to a new way for some companies to think about marketing communications, the different types of marketing communications or the platforms used in marketing communications. And it's called the PESO model. Paid, earned, shared, and owned media. So let's talk about paid and owned media. This is basically media controlled by the company. Paid means that they paid to, the company paid somebody or paid for the time or the channel to broadcast the marketing communications. It's regular advertising, whether it's on TV, radio, billboards. It's banner ads and other forms of advertisement on the internet. When you click on Yahoo and you see ads on the side, companies paying for that. Google AdWords. It's the things that the companies use to make sure their brand comes up in a search. It's called search engine optimization. It's incredibly important. Rarely do we go to the second page if we do Google search looking for something. Owned is pretty similar. It's the media or the tools that the company owns. It's their website. It would also include other brochures and other information that they put out about their brands. It might be the blogs that they write. It could be other types of content that they make available. Many companies have their own YouTube channels. They have things that they produce about their company and about their brands. Earned and shared are next. Earned media is basically things that other people say about you. So it's media relations. It's the positive or negative publicity you have with different newspapers, magazines, companies or periodicals or websites that review products. It's blogger relations. There's so many blogs out there written by people. Many of them mention brands. Some do reviews all the time. Just if you've ever gone to YouTube and Googled like product reviews or speaker reviews, there's all these people who put out reviews. Those all have a potential to influence buyers. And then there's shared media. Shared media is more the customer engagement, the two-way communication through social media, whether it's Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn. So all the different ways that people email, people can communicate. It literally is word of mouth, and there's regular word of mouth. And finally, there's also referrals. Whether people refer happy customers or satisfied customers, refer new customers to you, or whether they tell other customers to go somewhere else. Those are all part of that. So that's a different way to think about media than what we're going to do next, which is more the traditional way that marketers have thought about the different tools or the promotional mix they use in creating their marketing communications. The promotional mix is the traditional way marketers think about the tools or platforms they have to create messages with. So the first is advertising. We're all familiar with commercials and advertising. The second one is public relations. Public relations for marketing mainly consists of creating and managing publicity. It also includes important communications to stakeholders and customers. Another platform is personal selling. Any form of live communication, person to person, doesn't have to be face to face. The next one is sales promotion. We know sales promotion as rebates, coupons, sweepstakes and contests, bonus packs where if you buy something you get extra amounts, rewards programs, premiums, prizes that you get. Those are all part of sales promotion. And the last one, there's not really an official term for. I'm putting it down as direct and interactive marketing. So it's direct mail, which people still get, junk mail, websites, email, social media, a lot of the communications that have evolved through the use of the internet. So what we're going to do next is come up with a brief definition of each type of element in the marketing mix. So advertising is paid, non-personal communication, meaning that we know that the commercial, the actors, a celebrity, they're getting paid to say what they say, and their goal is to get us to buy or do something. It's non-personal because it's broadcast. It's a picture, it's an image. It's not another person that can react. Public relations, the main difference is it's non-paid, non-personal communication. Public relations or publicity comes through the newspaper, a TV show like 60 Minutes, a TV news story, an article in an online magazine or journal. That's what public relations is about. It can be negative, it can be positive. Personal selling is paid personal communication. Similar to advertising, that we know that the salesperson, they want us to buy the product. It's personal instead of non-personal, meaning that the person is right in front of us. They can have a conversation. Sales promotion is different. It's an incentive, a short-term incentive to get us to do something. Normally, it's trying to get us to buy something. But the sales promotion doesn't have to be a coupon on a rebate, which is to reward us with either a lower price, or if we buy more things, we get extra money off if we send in a rebate. But it might be to open up a charge card at Macy's or at Nordstrom's, and they'll put some money in the account if we use it. And so it's going to lead us to a sale, but it doesn't always have to be, our behavior doesn't always have to be to buy something at that distinct point in time. Direct or interactive marketing tends to be more online, right? So its definition is really pretty close to personal selling, but it's really kind of online, electronic, or digital interaction between marketers and customers in a various different forms or platforms that are available online. One of the most difficult things for a brand manager to figure out is, when do I use the different promotional mix elements? What are they good at? What are they not so good at? So to get a better handle on this, we're going to look at some of the promotional mix elements and look at some of the factors that are often important to brand managers and get a better idea of which ones are strong on certain factors and which ones are weak on certain factors. So we're going to look at advertising in the far left-hand column, public relations, personal selling, sales promotion, company website, and social media. The 5 factors are, across the top in the row, control of the message, the credibility of the source or the message, the ability to collect feedback, the ability to have measurable results, and then AIDA, the ability to build brand awareness, to communicate and build interest in the brand, to get buyers to prefer it or desire it over other brands, and finally to get the potential buyers to take action. So let's look at the ability to control a message. There are times when communication is really important or vital, or maybe perhaps it's pretty complicated or hard to understand, or maybe controversial, that you want to make sure the message is created and repeated in exactly the form that you want. So which elements are really good at giving you control of the message and consistency? Which elements are poor at it? Well, if you've ever played the game of telephone as a kid, you know that as soon as people start repeating the message, it gets corrupted. So it's not surprising that any form of any promotional mix elements that involves people usually is not very good at control of the message. Public relations. We can't control the third party that talks about our brand or our company. We can't control what the writers write, what the broadcasters say, what the bloggers blog. Even our own salespeople who work for our company, we can't control what they say when they're making a call with a potential client. They may talk about the cost and the price, where we want them to talk about the benefits of the brand. Social media, at best, is a two-way conversation, so we can only control half of that. The other methods, advertising, sales promotion, and a website, are much better controlling the message. Advertising is created, it's non-personal communication, it gets transmitted in the same form as it was created, so it's great. Sales promotion is often created the same way, whether it's coupons in a newspaper, a magazine. They can be online and electronic and printed out, but they rarely ever change. You have great control over them. And your website you create, so your company writes it. You have control over that. So those forms of the promotional mix are best. Now let's look at credibility. Obviously, credibility is important. Credibility is a degree to which the message can be trusted. Right? There are two factors that provide credibility. The first is the source has to be seen as having some form of expertise. They have to know what they're talking about. The second one is whether they're trustworthy or not. Are they saying this because they have your best interests at heart? Or do they have something to gain? Do they have an agenda? If the person is trustworthy and has expertise, they have credibility. If they aren't trustworthy but have expertise, we're not sure what they're telling us. If they're trustworthy but they don't know what they're talking about, they don't have credibility. You need both of those. So which elements are good at credibility? So when we look at it, we immediately think, hey, if the company is paying for it, right? If it's paid, they're probably not trustworthy. So not surprisingly, advertising and personal sales are low on credibility. You can create credibility, but it takes time. Public relations, because it's said by an outside party, a third party, is really high in credibility, especially if it's a newscaster. It's in a newspaper. It's in Consumer Reports. It's on a review website that's well respected. Sales promotion doesn't struggle with credibility. If the coupon says 5 cents or 50 cents or $10, you get it off. Companies have to follow through with their promotions legally. Surprisingly, most people trust websites, company websites. I'm not sure why, because it's the company writing it. They may not be trustworthy because they do have an agenda. They want to sell you products, but most consumers view them as being relatively trustworthy. And social media, because you also often elicit the view of your friends and it's word of mouth reviews, is often viewed as having extremely high credibility. Feedback and measurable results are pretty similar. Feedback is the ability for the promotional mix element to interact with the target audience and collect feedback, enhance or continue communication. Measurable results are the ability to judge whether or not the communication had the desired result. So again, the question is, which methods are good if feedback is important, collecting feedback and having a continuing conversation? Which methods are good for measuring whether or not they're working? Which mix elements are difficult? So when we look at this, we can look at both of them together because they're pretty much the same. Advertising isn't good at feedback, right? You can't ask or measure or tell whether or not the person's going to buy the product. It's difficult to measure because the effects of advertising often lag. The advertising might be effective and it may influence your attitude and the likelihood of you buying, but you may not purchase right away. You might wait a week, a month, a year, many years. You may not buy your dream car for 15, 20 years. It doesn't mean that the advertising in the meantime wasn't effective. Public relations, again, because it's non-personal, it's difficult to get feedback. The results are somewhat difficult to measure. It has the same properties as advertising in the sense that it's non-personal communication. So again, it's difficult to measure because the results may lag. Personal sales, really strong in feedback, right? They can, especially in face-to-face communication, they can read the body language. They can ask questions. They can ask the person to clarify or to explain how they feel, have the opportunity to persuade. Because salespeople often call on businesses, it's relatively easy to measure their results. Did they get a sale or not? Sales promotion usually involves some form of either purchasing a brand that has an available sales promotion and or redeeming something that enables them to get the discount, and often is used to help repay the retailer who is going to pass along the discount to the customer. Pretty easy at getting feedback. Very good at measurable results. If you print 1 million coupons and 500,000 were used, you know how many people responded to your sales promotion campaign. The website provides a great deal of information. It has the ability to have feedback. Customers can answer a survey. They make choices on where they click based upon what you show them, what content is on every web page. Plus, the web server that hosts your website records every movement that every visitor makes on your website. So you know what pages they go to. You know what website they came from, what pages they go to, where they go in what order, whether they put things in their cart if they're thinking about purchasing things, and what page they leave your website from and where they go to from there. And because of all that, you can certainly measure traffic, you can measure sales because you can make sales on your website, so it's good for measurable results. Social media, by definition, because it's a conversation many times, provides the opportunity for feedback. It might be delayed a little bit. If somebody posts something on your Facebook, the next day your company, or an hour later you respond to it, but you have that thread of conversation and dialogue. I have a question mark by measurable results. Companies have thoroughly embraced social media, measuring its impact, even though everybody assumes it has a positive impact, is difficult right now. So we'll put a question mark there for that. But most people feel it does provide positive results. The last factor is AIDA, awareness, interest, desire, and action. The steps that a customer, a buyer, goes through before they actually act and buy the product. So as you can see, advertising is really strong at building awareness, interest, and desire, but especially awareness. Companies will pay $5, $6, $7 million this year to be on the Super Bowl and have a 30-second commercial. Why? They'll be watched by so many people. It's a relatively good buy for building brand awareness if your target audience watches the Super Bowl. It's good at interest. So you can carry some information in an ad, even though it's only 30 seconds, okay? On TV ad, you can still provide information. Ads on websites, ads in magazines and other types of written material can carry lots of information. It's also good at creating desire. You can do comparison ads. You can show why your brand is different and better than your competition. So for those things, it's very effective. It's poor at action. It leaves action totally up to the customer. You have to go out and buy it, or go up to your computer, go online and purchase it. Public relations is pretty similar. Again, it's good for awareness. It's very good at interest, especially for new types of products. It's good for demonstrating how it can be different and help consumers and companies by providing new or better benefits. Even though it's not shown, it's pretty good at desire, all right? But most public relations may not say which brand is better than another brand. Again, it's not very strong in action. So if you're having problems with action, getting people to buy the brand, they like it, but they're just not right, they don't pull the trigger, public relations, advertising, not the best. If it's a problem with awareness or people understanding the benefits or how your brand is different, advertising, public relations can be very good. Personal selling is really strong at action. It's good. It also can be very persuasive. Most business-to-business marketing is the most common marketing communications is personal selling. Companies employ salespeople to go talk to other companies to help solve their problems, to meet their needs. Salespeople have the ability to ask for the order, to negotiate, to find out what's holding a customer back, to make a deal. And that's why salespeople do really well. Business to business salespeople average about $80,000 to $90,000 a year based upon their activities. If they're good at it, you can make more than that, a lot more than that. Sales promotion is similar. It's a short-term incentive to get people to do something. It's usually almost always for action. It leads to action, to buying. All right, Black Friday, all the promotions to get people into the store so they buy the products and they buy additional products that aren't on sale or aren't a sale at a steep discount. So the website, this big promise is it can do all of it. It can help build awareness, all right, through Google and getting on search and all that kind of stuff. It can, once you're on the website, it can show you why the brand is, how it can help, why it's a good brand. It can show you why it's better than the other brands. It can build desire, and then when you're on the website, in most cases, you can buy the brand right there. So it takes the consumer all the way through, and that's really its main strength. Social media is much like advertising. It's good at awareness, interest, desire. We might ask our friends or other people what brand to buy, what are the best brands to consider, what makes them stronger or weaker. We go to Reddit, we read all this stuff, so there's lots of information. It's just not really good at getting us to act. It gets us all the way through so we know what we might buy or what we plan to buy, but it's not good at actually getting us to buy at any point in time. The last thing we're going to look at are the kind of two overall integrated marketing communication strategies. So the first is called a push strategy. And I know this diagram's a little funky, but really think of it as a supply chain. Push strategy means that we aim our marketing communications at the next business in the supply chain, to our actual buyer. So if we were a apparel manufacturer, so we make clothes, all right, we sell them to a retailer. So let's skip the wholesaler in this picture. So we sell our clothes to Target and Walmart. A push strategy says that we aim most of our promotional dollars and use our tools to communicate with the retailer, in this case Target and Walmart. Usually, the two main tools in a push strategy are personal selling. So this is a very common strategy in business-to-business products. And then sales promotion. And creating reasons, specials, price discounts, and other types of promotions to get the retailers to purchase our brand. We are not aiming our dollars at the end user, the consumer in this case, right? We're aiming at the next company in the supply chain. If it's to business, then the next company may be the end user. But because it's a company, we don't spend a lot of money advertising, on television certainly, but even in business periodicals and other types of publications or media that the company may consume. Push strategy makes a lot of sense when the retailer or the wholesaler has more value, is more important than the manufacturer. If you think about furniture, all right, most of us can only name a few brands of furniture. Most of them are mattresses like Sealy or Serta or Lazy Boy or, not too many, all right? But we can name more furniture retailers: Bob's, Raymour and Flanigan, Jordan's, IKEA, Pottery Barn. So why is that? Well, if you make furniture, the most important thing is that you have to get your furniture in a store. People won't buy it online because they need to try it. There really aren't very many furniture stores. They need a lot of space. People need to be able to see it and try it. So they can't hold a lot of different brands. They can only have so many dining room sets, so many bedroom sets, so many living room sets, etc. So it's really cutthroat in getting into the retailers. So most of the promotional dollars are spent in sales and sales promotion. Because if you aren't in the store, nobody will buy you. It's also good for smaller companies, push, because it's cheaper than a pull strategy, which we'll talk about in a minute. Even though you're spending a fair amount of money on each client, most push strategy uses less dollars. And you'll understand why when we talk about a pull strategy. So a pull strategy is the opposite. The manufacturer promotes directly to the end user. So if it's a retail product, a pull strategy is being used by companies that advertise on TV all the time, whether it's insurance or cars or food or makeup or clothes or phone services. What they're trying to do, as we learned when we talked about the supply chain, is they're creating demand with the end user. So people go to the store and they ask for that brand. If the retailer doesn't have it, they often leave and go to another store that does have the brand. That gives the retailer incentive to order the brand from the manufacturer. Hey, people want that. We better have it. So they buy it from them. It provides a lot of value for the manufacturer or the marketer because it's in demand. They can charge more to the wholesaler and the retailer because the consumer is willing to pay for it because it's in demand. So it's really good for consumer-based products. It's a little more risky. It's expensive. Advertising on a national or a regional level, heavy advertisement in television and other forms is expensive. Yes, it can be a lot less expensive through social media, but not every product does well on social media. Not all target markets really use social media a lot. So many times you have to include a lot of traditional advertising, which is expensive. But if you can create demand for your product, then in the long run, it'll be more profitable because you're creating more value in that supply chain and you'll be able to command more of the profit. So pull strategy is often used by larger companies or consumer-based companies where it's efficient for them to advertise to large groups of people and they have the money to do that. They can afford it. Now, what do most companies do? Most companies prefer to use both a push and a pull strategy. Smaller companies often are forced to use a push strategy because they can't afford to advertise enough. You can't, even if you buy an ad on the Super Bowl, if you don't advertise on a regular basis, it's not going to be effective. So smaller companies use push. Larger companies will use push and pull because they also want to have a sales force to go and talk to the different retailers or wholesalers that they're selling directly to, as well as create demand for the product with the end user who will go to the retailer or wholesaler to purchase the product.